Meghna is a public relations manager and communication strategist with experience in developing and implementing PR campaigns, media relations, and brand awareness initiatives. She is currently the lead program manager with her employer. She has worked across various industries, focusing on strategic communication planning, crisis management, and content creation. Her professional background includes roles at Educate Online, Container Exchange, etc., and her responsibilities have included leadership positioning, brand recall, and stakeholder engagement. Throughout her career, has been involved in program management, campaign development, media reporting, and digital marketing, applying her skills to support organizational goals. I now request Meghna to share her screen and look forward to an engaging session. Oh, sorry, Meghna, you're on mute.
Hi, sorry. Thank you so much for a warm welcome, Rajnigandha. It was a really great opportunity to be a part of PMI. I am pretty excited to give my session on this topic because this is something that we do every day without knowing. So, without further ado, let's begin. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, before we start, my first question is, what do you think PR is?
Building relationships.
Any more guesses? What do you think public relations stand for or what it does?
Strategically display of information.
Okay. Any other guesses?
This would be more of your soft skill, I would say, that you can use.
It's more or less harmony between stakeholders of various stakeholders.
Okay. Any more guesses?
Building and maintaining a relationship with the general public.
That's also correct. Yes. Okay, so if there are no more guesses, all of the elements that you mentioned are true when it comes to public relations. The very first thing that we need to understand is public relations is just doesn't entail maintaining relationships or doing stakeholder management or how we present information. It's an amalgamation of all the elements that we said. PR somewhere down the line is considered as a soft skill, but with the time passing and all the CEOs all over the world recognizing the importance of reputation management, public relations and communications have taken a center stage. This particular conversation has taken a seat in the boardroom meetings as well now. So I work with the PRCAI. It's a semi-government trade body for public relations, and they released a report which says that 72% of CEOs are now recognizing how much important reputation management is at a juncture where business is wanting to create an impact in the industry that they're dealing in. So that is what public relations brings to the table. And if I talk about what exactly it is, it's a strategy of managing information and presenting it smartly about any individual, company, organization, even a project via leveraging media tools and public relation techniques. That's what public relations is. So that is a premise of what PR is and what it does. Now, when it comes to the topic that we are going to cover, it's called building project influence by leveraging PR tactics for stakeholder management. Why? Because all the jobs that we are doing, they all somewhere include doing stakeholder management and managing their expectations, delivering results, communicating about it. So more or less we are doing PR without even knowing about the project that we are working on. So that is a topic that we are going to cover, how on a ground level, on a grassroots level, you can make small tweaks about how you approach a project management piece that you're working on, and create project influence so that your stakeholders involved are managed properly and are communicated with for the better success of your project. So moving forward, in today's session, we are going to cover PR impact on project influence. We are going to talk about stakeholder engagement strategies, how we can build a project narrative, and what are the essential elements of doing that. Where does media come into it, and how you can create engagement impact, and what strategies you can adopt with the help of your internal communications team. How do you do influencer partnerships, and how do you make a strategic PR framework, all the elements of it, the essentials that you need for it, the tactics and the impact that you can create. And last but not the least, how inclusive engagement plays a very very important role in doing anything and everything when it comes to creating project influence. So let's start with how does stakeholder engagement and PR impact go hand in hand. We haven't given a thought about it, to be very honest, and I'm sure a lot of people have come across the fact where they have to present something to their stakeholders, but they don't know how to bring the USP out about their project so that they can create some sort of impact and a lasting impression. So when we talk about the importance of stakeholder engagement, it is crucial for the project success because their support, their involvement, their attention towards the project can significantly impact the outcomes and the decisions associated with the said project you're working on. Hence, stakeholder engagement is important at each level of your project. Second, why a role of PR is important in building the influence, which we do indirectly, because it plays a key role in shaping the perception, how your project is being perceived, whether it is a successful project or is it a stagnant project, is it not brewing any good deeds out of it, and managing the communications around your project so that your relationship with your project stakeholder is good, which can enhance the project influence significantly. So that's the role of stakeholder engagement and PR impact when it is done together in collaboration. Any questions so far? Anything that you would like to ask? Okay, moving ahead. So, when we talk about PR as a strategic tool in project engagement, there are a lot of elements that come on a macro level and on micro level. So, we are going to cover the macro pieces of it, where when we use PR as a strategic tool, we do three things. One is we are enhancing the project visibility, we are creating trust and credibility and authenticity about our project, and we are strengthening our stakeholder relationship. When we say about stakeholders, it necessarily doesn't need to be the C-suite level people of the company. They are also the customers, they are also the potential leads, they are also the target audience from different regional markets. They are also the people who are our vendors and third party supporters. So stakeholder is a huge gamut when we talk about stakeholder management. So the very first point that I said, it creates enhanced project visibility. For example, if Swiggy or Blinkit did not do as much PR about them, would we know that they have XYZ services? Would we know that they on Rakhi they actually did interglobal deliveries for brothers and sisters? We wouldn't know. Why? Because it wouldn't have been communicated by the company only. So how would there be a visibility of the project that they took on? So when we talk about PR strategies, it helps in creating project visibility on all levels, internal as well and external as well. It ensures that your project goals and milestones are effectively communicated to stakeholders, so that the third party eyes that are looking at your project would know that about the progress that your project is making. Second is credibility and trust building. Now we all know about the Maggie problem that happened, that Maggie had lead and it should not be fed to the kids. It is going to create a lot of health issues. We all knew about this ruckus, and actually Maggie was pulled back from the shelves. But we still are eating Maggie very very nicely when we are going to the mountains, right? Or even when we are at home, we are without hesitating we are consuming Maggie and other products by Maggie. How did that happen? Because they made sure there was sustained communication around their authenticity and their credibility as a brand. They took responsibility of what went wrong, they fixed it, and they made sure that everyone knows about it. There were interviews, there were a lot of factory visits. They got their media people come in and do familiarization trips in their factory, so that they can report the actuality behind what was happening in their factories. And they did press releases and press notes and whatnot, social media advertisements, resulting in us general audience actually always trusting Maggie when we want to have a quick bite. So that is the importance, and that is the impact that good PR can create. It it creates a reliability for your project, and it enhances the reputation of your project. Not even project, I would say your company that you're serving for. And the third piece is stakeholder relationship strengthening. This is the piece that we covered before, that it helps in fostering open communication channels and addressing their concerns effectively. So if someone has a concern, they will be only be able to raise it when they have a communication channel to go through. And this can only happen when there is a relationship, a proper relationship where they can actually raise the concern. If they are not able to raise the concern, they are not going to get it addressed, and then it will eventually impact your overall reputation. Hence, PR activities always help in strengthening the relationship with all the stakeholders involved. Any questions so far? Before we move on, I wanted to understand, we all are working somewhere or the other. Have we ever gotten in touch with the internal communications team that we are with, or have we ever supported any PR activity in our organization? Have we done that?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And what support was required from your end when you actually supported the team?
So we were looking at our job description templates, and it was more about how should we communicate, like what should be the changes, what is it that candidates would prefer looking at when they look at job descriptions, and how to communicate the changes to all hiring managers within the organization.
Right. So you did internal communications, but you supported with your inputs when your templatization was being done.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yes. So this is exactly how it's done in any organization. Just like Rajnigandha mentioned, there all the teams are somewhere or the other involved in creating a narrative, doing storytelling for the company that you're working for, the project that you're serving. So the next slide talks about the power of storytelling in PR. How do you utilize narrative techniques? I mean, when you talk about a project, you do give some gist about it, right? That this was the inception, this was the base idea, and that is how the solution came through, and this is what we are serving. So we weave a story around it, right? Why do we do that? So that we can humanize the project. We incorporate personal stories and relatable experiences, so that the project becomes more engaging and people can resonate with it emotionally. And it does what? It creates a stronger connection and a sense of belief. So we all watch Shark Tank, right? We all have seen a lot of episodes where they are bringing very grassroots level stories and pointing out challenges that they have faced in their lives, based on which they have created a solution. So why do these stories stay with us? Because they resonate with us emotionally. On a emotional level, there is an impact about that story. Hence we remember the project. That is how the narrative technique comes into play when PR is done. So whenever we have to sell something, we always try to make it very humanized. I mean, when we are talking about NASA, for example, we know a lot of projects about NASA because there is so much emotions attached to it. Be it a launch of Apollo, be it Chandrayaan from our India, when we talk about ISRO, we don't know the technicality and why we are doing it, but we know that the impact that it created was so emotionally arousing that we still remember, and we may talk about it when it comes into a conversation. So that is the importance of creating a humanized approach when you do PR for your project or your company. That is how you use narrative technique. The second piece is, when we are weaving a story around our project, it has to be aligned with the goals and the stakeholder values. So for example, if let's say UP RERA wanted that all the builders that are there in the region have to have some sort of alignment with the rules that UP RERA has launched, what will they do? They will create a list of things that will resonate with the builders, so that they recognize and empathize with those pointers and actually comply with them. And that is how a lot of projects, all the RERA projects that there are, UP RERA does the best all the time. You will always read more news about UP RERA than any other RERA in India. Why? Because they have made sure that the goals that they have align with the goals of their stakeholders and also the general audience. So when project goals are aligned with stakeholder values and interests, it creates a sense of shared purpose. I mean, if I don't feel that this purpose is going to serve me anywhere, I wouldn't take interest, right? You wouldn't take interest. You would think, "Well, how is it benefiting me?" So we have to always create a sense of mutual benefit, so that there is enhanced engagement and support. Hence, utilizing narrative techniques is very important when we have to do effective stakeholder engagement. Any questions so far? No? Okay, let's move forward. So when we talk about key elements of a project narrative, I mean, how do we build it? What are the things that we need? The basic two things are, we have to have clear objectives and vision, and we should always have success stories and case studies to talk about. Now, why do you think it has any role to play in project narrative? Because when you have defined clear goals, it aligns with the stakeholders expectations, and it will also foster engagement. And a well articulated vision creates a direction to go in. If your vision is all over the place, your project will also go haywire. It will be all over the place, the same way your vision is. But if you have a strategic direction, that okay, this is what the project should achieve by xyz year, or by xyz month, or by this percentage it should increase, or this is the number of leads that we need to get. You have a clear objective and vision. You're visualizing your success, and when you have that visual in your mind, it will align with the stakeholder expectations also. Because if you don't know what you can achieve, your stakeholders will never have that trust in you, that okay, this is what you can actually achieve. Hence, a project narrative is always based on clear objective and vision. Second piece is success stories and case studies. When we buy any insurance or when we are buying any high end car, or we are buying some electronic thing that has just been launched, but we are not very sure whether or not to go with it. What do? We go to Amazon and read the reviews and watch YouTube videos of people reviewing it. Why? Because we are just trying to find that the project, that the thing that we are wanting to invest in has some sort of credibility and it is going to serve the purpose. We are trying to find that trust from others, and then we are trying to figure out whether I as a consumer can also trust in it. Hence, success stories and case studies helps in demonstrating the credibility and impact and building trust with the stakeholders, because case studies always provide practical examples of success. So whenever we make a PR pitch, or a, let's say, a project management pitch, or a marketing pitch, why do we always put credentials about our company? Because we want to tell them that, boss, we have done good work, we have been successful in the past, we have solved many problems. And that is how we build our reputation in front of whoever we are going. So your project narrative should always be backed by success stories and case studies. Now, we all talked about the superficial level of how PR is done, what is important, what's not. But how do you do all this? I mean, how does your company do the PR, or how can you help? And why does company actually do PR and involve the media and influencers? Why do they do that? The first thing is, it helps in expanding the reach. Now, if your company town hall is talking about some growth numbers, only the internal teams at your company would know about it. But if it is talked about in the media, then tons and tons of people who are your direct or indirect stakeholders or potential customers or leads, they will also know that, okay, this company did this. Hence, your project reach is expanded multifold, and media relations help in doing that. They help projects reach a wider audience, increasing your visibility and actually attracting stakeholders. So you must have heard, whenever there is a startup, they do series funding, right? They do series A, series B, series C. How are they actually doing that? How do they plan that? They divide their timeline in certain periods, and in that period they make sure that the goal that they have business wise is achieved, and it is also communicated about, so that whenever there is a series funding approaching, their media credibility is there available on Google. So that if someone googles, let's say, Oyo Rooms, or someone googles Zepto, they can see how much good work and success they have achieved in the past. And what does it do? It helps in attracting the investors. The same way, when we do relationship building with the media, what we try to do is we try to establish credibility and position ourselves as an expert in the field. So if we have to book a cab, our fingers would automatically type Uber, very rarely Ola. In southern part of India it might go to Ola, but in northern part of India it will automatically, you will type Uber if you want to book a cab. Or if you want to book your flight tickets, you will automatically go to Make My Trip. Your second choice would be Go Ibibo. Why do you do that? Because you have always read about Uber, you have heard customer stories, you have seen media covering about them, you have seen their success stories. Obviously there are a lot of criminal cases also attached to a lot of companies, but that is part and parcel of a business. But still, their resonation with you is always on top. Hence, you search for it first. That means that media helps you in establishing yourself as an expert in that field, in that market. That is why media relations is important in creating project visibility. And when we talk about effective media engagement strategies, there are tons of things. There are tons of things that you can actually do under it, but there are five basic things which can be done on your level as well, or probably collaborating with your internal communications team, or if there is an agency that you're working with, you can do that. One is obviously create a media outreach plan where you decide what are the kind of media outlets, target audience that you need to reach out, and what are your objectives, the key messages that you want to talk about, and the distribution channels. Then you actually create media kits as well. You create comprehensive packages of information where you add everything, your numbers, your charts, your figures, that you're free to use in the media, so that when your media is covering you, they have all the relevant sources to cover from. You craft press releases also, which are newsworthy content to announce project updates, achievements, and events. And why do you do that? So that you're attracting media attention towards you, so that people cover you, so that people know about you. There is a brand recall. And you also ensure that there is sustained information seeding. If you do a press release once a year, no one will remember you. If you meet a media house once a year, they will forget you. But if you're doing ongoing interactions with media, you're offering exclusive opportunities, saying that okay, you come and talk to our project manager, or you come down to our factory and meet our factory head, you're providing expert opinions and regular updates, it will create an enduring partnership and increase your chances of coverage. And you have to build a relationship with the journalist also. So if you talk to your internal communications manager, they will say that I have a list of media friends. What does media friends mean here? That this company has 10 15 odd people from the media who know about the company well, and they are willing to cover them whenever you reach out to them. And that only happens when you actually build your relationship with the journalists. So these are the basic tactics that you can do when you are doing engagement for your project via media. Any questions? Has any one of us ever interacted with any journalist or a media house, or have ever seen a press conference happening in our organization? Okay.
What
So
kind of priorities we can set when we handle with the media press? Because we are not much exposed to them as a project managers.
right.
Yeah.
So your question is, what are the priorities that are set with the media?
Yeah, yeah. As a project manager, like if we have an opportunity in future, we need to deal with the
Mm-hmm.
media press and public relations people.
Mm-hmm.
So how we can set the priorities and what kind of urgencies if they have, how we can, if any suggestions, tips and tricks.
Sure. So, if at all you come face to face with a media house or a journalist, or you are asked to support on a PR activity or a initiative, the very first priority that you must have as the project manager is, what do you want to communicate? Do you want to communicate the solution that you are bringing forth, or the growth that you have done, or the success rate that you have to done, you have done so far? You have to align the narrative that you want the media to know. So if you want to say that okay, my project achieved xyz% of growth in last 3 years, so that is your priority. Your data is your priority when you come face to face with the media house. And the media will only take interest in your particular project when they see that you are doing something different than others. There has to be a USP, a unique selling point, a unique selling proposition of your particular project. So your priority should always be to set that USP before you go out and talk about it. And the third piece is that whatever you are talking about is actually aligned with what your company is talking about in the market. So, for example, if I am a part of a startup and my startup is not doing so well, it is not getting any funding, but I am saying as a project manager, boss, my project achieved 500% growth. it does not match, it does not align with what the company is actually doing. So it has to have some sort of resonance with the overall company goals. And when we talk about the sense of urgency from media, media always it has urgency. They will never give you a lot of time. So it's best to have there's something called SDR. SDR is a sales development report. So when we do actually marketing pitches or PR pitches, we have a SDR document ready where there is, a narrative about the project. When anyone asks about what your project is doing or what have you done, we hand out the SDR, and we tell them that whatever facts and figures that you're looking for, it it has it all. You can skim through it, and if you have any questions, then you can reach out to us and we will have them answered. So it's best to have a FAQ document of sorts ready for your project all the time, if you are actually engaging with the media or working with your internal team in tandem. So it really helps. Hope that answers your question.
Yes, of course. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Meghana. I think just to
Yeah.
add on to a couple of points to what you said just now. From an
Yeah.
organization point of view, media communication will be basically in terms of, whenever a project has been won, I mean, the organization win a bid out of the competitors, the media would like to know what is exactly is it, and what is the prestigious client that they are going to work with. And another example can be when acquisitions happen by another company, right? One of the company acquiring another company. So that is a second one. Third one can be if you are part of, if this particular company is part of developing a high-end technical product from a solution point of view, they wanted to also publicize their capabilities and competencies. That's where also media would like to be interesting in terms of getting to know what is this company is all about.
Yes, yes, absolutely correct, Aparna. There are different ways of PR. When we say that we need to do a PR campaign, there are elements to it, and so one of the elements is always company facts and figures. So under that, all the number related stuff, any financial growth, any numbers that we are releasing comes under it. Then is M&A, which you just mentioned, mergers and acquisitions, and customer success. This is the second piece that we use as a tactic when we communicate about our company. The third piece is technical capabilities and solutions, where we actually talk about the technical aspect of the company, where the solution portfolio, the project portfolios are mentioned. And the fourth piece is customer success stories and success stories, as in success reports. And the fifth part is white papers and reports and surveys. A lot of companies like Deloitte and Gartner, EY, all of them have a lot of reports that come out periodically, and those are the reports actually that we refer to when we want to gather some data. So all in all, yes, all of this is covered under the sections. Okay, moving forward. Now when we talk about we spoke about media. Now we are going to talk about influencers. Now this is a very interesting piece. Now I want to understand, what do you think an influencer does? Who is an influencer according to you? Anyone who has an opinion on what an influencer does?
An influencer can negatively or positively impact the outcomes or even the decisions.
Yes. Anyone
Do you
else?
mean do you mean this PROs? Is the PRO role is like an influencer between the company or project managers with the media, in between they play a role.
Somewhat, yes.
Anyone?
Okay.
Yeah,
So I
anyone?
think
Sorry,
would
sorry.
influencer be someone who is able to shift public opinion? So someone, let's say someone who is on a Insta or a Twitter or on a LinkedIn, uh, so top voices. So they are people to whom people listen. There's a likelihood that if they say something, it may influence public opinion on one way or the other, or at least it gets noticed.
Yes, absolutely correct. So, bang on, all the three pieces that were mentioned are actually correct. We, as general audience, when we didn't know about influencers, and even for me, when I did not understand what an influencer is, I always thought the TikTokers who dance, the Facebook, models, and the Instagram models are the influencers. That is a general perception. Even if you go to a layman, they would say जो Instagram पे आते हैं वो लोग influencer होते हैं. But that is not the actual definition of influencer. Influencers are people who can shift public opinion, who can create an impact, and actually create resonance with shared goals. So for a project that you're working on, influencer could be anybody. Your stakeholder, definitely. Your investor, yes, is an influencer. Your project manager, your project lead, your PR team, obviously. Your partner in that particular project, if you have a supporter, all of these people are influencers. And these influencer can actually create an impact about your project or break your project. So if a project lead knows in and out about the project and has all the information, good or bad, and your project lead chooses to use the positive information and create an impact over the potential investor you are going to, or probably presenting it to the CEO or your COO, your project will do good. Why? Because your project lead chose to influence their perception about the project in a positive manner. But let's say you have someone who is exiting from your project and doesn't have a really good opinion, and they choose to say negative things about your project, and somehow people listen to him or her, then that person is also an influencer, because they are influencing the perception about your company and the project. Hence, influencer management is something again that we do on a daily basis, but we are unaware of. So, how do you use influencer partnerships to create impact? What do? The very first thing is you have to identify relevant influencers. You have to know who are these people who you are aligned with your project values and can actually make a perception shift for your audience preference. You have to figure out who are the people. When we say ki, we talk about that we need to get this decision done, this needs to be moved, this hasn't moved, and we think of people who we can go to get this done. That person is an influencer to your project, because you know that person can make a decision and actually shift the perception about it. You have to identify the relevant influencers. Then you have to build a mutually beneficial partnership. Until and unless your recognized influencer doesn't see value in your project and in supporting it, that person is not going to help you. You have to create a way that whatever you are doing somehow benefits the person that you've recognized as an influencer for your project. And you have to foster a long term collaboration, because it can't be that this person was helping with your project one day and the very next month this person is going against it. That creates instability in your reputation. The third is you have to enhance your stakeholder engagement through influencer partnerships, and by creating interactive and personalized experiences so that they are involved. Involvement is key. So if you say that my project lead is involved through and through, that person will always try to find a purpose in that project, because it is also helping him professionally or helping her professionally, and in their journey in the company. So there has to be involvement, and that can only happen when you are creating interactive experiences. That is how you can effectively manage your influencer and your stakeholders. And the last piece is you have to amplify your project messages. And how do you do that? we do get internal newsletters, right, from the company every 15 days or 10 days or weekly, saying that this was the thing that we did, we launched this, we won this customer, we did good, XYZ. We do these, right? The companies always make sure that everyone knows how well the company is doing, so that your project message or your company message is amplified to a wider audience, so that it is enhancing the reach and its impact. So you have to always make sure that you are contributing to amplifying the project messages by using your influencer point of contacts.
Meghna, we have a question here. Vasu, go ahead, ask the question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Meghna, hi. When we actually talk about influencers, they're actually one of our stakeholders, right? Because we actually identify them. And managing
Yes.
these influencers becomes part of our stakeholder engagement strategy as well. Right?
Yes, absolutely. So that's what I was saying, that 99% of the cases will have your influencer is going to be someone from your own pool of people that you're working with. But there is a 1% pool that is out there who can also influence your project. So that is government, obviously your government stakeholders, your third party vendor stakeholders, your project potential customers. They're also influencers, because when you are going out and, let's say, pitching a particular solution, right, you are going to a pool of people, let's say 10 people, 15 people, 20 people every day or every week. So it adds up to a significant amount of people who haven't pitched about your solution. And since they are from the same part of the industry, they will have some sort of collective opinion about the solution that you're pitching. And when out of this pool, let's say 5% are going to convert as your customers, their decision is going to be based on what the others are saying. So 99% is your own stakeholders, and 1% is always out of the pool that you're working with.
Makes sense. Yeah. Sure. Thanks, Meghna.
Okay.
So
Any other questions?
in project management, we use a sphere of influence where we actually capture the information about internal stakeholders and external stakeholders that covers within the project and within the organization and outside the project boundaries, as well as external who are customers, investors, end users, etc. So we have this sphere of influence created for every project. So just would like to add on to that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, moving forward, we understood how we use influencer partnerships. Now, social media is also a very important tool, especially in this new age. And there are tons of things that you can do yourself for your customers or for your stakeholders. Uh, the basic tactics are actually going to create measurable impact. So that is the key point here. For example, DLF as a company has tons of projects going on. One of them is DLF Grantham that is being built in Gurgaon. Now, Grantham is talk of the town in real estate. If you go and search about it, you will find tons of project images and their renders on Instagram, Facebook, Google. Why did they do that? To invoke curiosity. It is a to be executed project, and it is still not commenced yet, but there is so much talk about it because they used social media for it. They use social media so effectively, they used outdoor marketing so effectively, that everyone who is driving towards Gurgaon from Delhi and is living in Delhi NCR would know about DLF Grantham. So why I'm taking this as an example, because when we are also working on projects and we think that this project is big enough to be a separate asset, a sub asset of your company, then we can actually establish it on social media. And the tactics that we can take is real time interaction. When you do real time interaction, it helps in stakeholder involvement. So if you're interacting via social media, posting stories and doing live Q&A, and posting some sort of reels, there are people who are going to be involved and actually having their eyes on their project and coming and going and seeing what you are doing, and would also have a sense of curiosity, okay, what's next. And if your project is actually established, if you're talking about the milestones, then it will gauge you visibility and recognition. So taking the DLF example again, we know DLF is one of the key stakeholders who has built Gurgaon. So there is recognition about it because they keep posting about the good things or bad things or whatever they are achieving, and they promote it properly, so there is visibility, a huge visibility about it. Then if you use analytics out of it, you utilize the analytics out of the social media that you are doing, you can actually quantify your effectiveness. You will see that who is the target audience that is actually interested in you. You will be able to do lead recognition, and then you will also be able to find out who are the people who you need to go to next, who are the people who are not landing on your page, and what can you do to actually enhance it, make it better, so that your project reach increases. You can also do analysis of your content. How is it performing? Again, which I was mentioning, it will help you figure out how to improve your engagement strategies. If let's say I want to reach out to let's say I am a lifestyle company, I am selling clothes, and I want to reach out to a segment of women from 16 to 22, but my page is constantly getting views from people who are above 30, and I know for a fact that above 30 people are not going to buy my pieces. So that will help me understand why my content is not performing well and not reaching to the target audience actually I'm eyeing. So it will help me improve my engagement strategies. The third piece is audience segmentation. When you are able to segment your audience, identify your audience, you will also be able to figure out that how do I target each section, how do I create communication approach that is targeted particularly to that audience segment that I've identified. And the last piece is, if you're able to do an assessment of the return of investment on the campaign that you are running, you will also be able to measure the return on your PR investments. Because when you use social media, you're actually doing PR. So you will be able to figure out whether or not your money is well spent, or you need to figure out a better way to do it. Now, all said and done, how do you create a robust PR framework is the question. You have to have transparent communication. You have to be open and honest about your communication practices, so that there is a sense of trust and credibility amongst stakeholders. Second is, your messaging has to be consistent. So let's say I have 5 social media pages, one on Facebook, one on LinkedIn, one on Twitter, one on X, and one on Pinterest, and all of them have a different message about my company. Then there won't be a shared understanding and recognition and brand recall about my particular company or project. If I say on one page that I sell clothes, and on the other I say I sell shoes, so these two messaging are not connected. So there has to be a uniformity, so that your brand image and your project identity is one. There is no scattered understanding of your project, and there is a single brand recall. And the third piece is, you have to engage with thought leaders, your industry thought leaders. Why? Because when there are industry thought leaders involved, they will help you gain credibility. Because thought leaders only talk about projects and companies that are actually doing good, so they are also influencers. So for you, your industry thought leader would be, let's say, your CTO, your COO, who knows about the project in and out. So you have to engage with them and make sure that person is creating visibility for your project. They're endorsing your project through their channels. So utilize your internal people, utilize your industry thought leaders, engage with them so that your project credibility is enhanced. And the piece that we are continuously talking about, creating stakeholder support. How do you do that? This is something that is, I think, taught to everyone when we are taught project management or PR or even soft skills, that we have to foster a loop of active listening and feedback. You have to engage in attentive listening so that you understand what the stakeholder needs, what are their concerns, so that you can manage their expectations better. And that can only happen by feedback mechanisms, so that you can gather all the stakeholder input, address their issues, improve your project outcomes and your strategies. Third piece is you have to create a channel where you can mitigate your stakeholders concerns before they go out of hand. If you are not doing that within time, it will go out of hand and actually impact or hamper your success. And the last piece is you have to create a sense of ownership and involvement. Until unless your stakeholder feels that he or she is involved in your project, that person will not own your project. That person will never show any sympathy or empathy towards your project. They will always try to find what's in it for them. So you have to create a sense of ownership so that there is commitment towards your project. And as I mentioned before, you have to use case studies and examples to do that. You have to utilize storytelling in your PR campaign so that there is emotional resonance. Until unless someone is able to connect with your project, they will not be able to help you in any manner, let alone be creating project influence. And you have to always make sure that you have tons of owned media channels that you can use. It is as basic as your MIS report or your weekly report or your weekly updates that you send on your groups. Because when you are able to properly provide the information about your project success or growth or what all it's doing, you are not going to be able to create any sort of impact, let alone be outside, even internally. So use all your channels. It could be your Slack, it could be your Teams, it could be your Miro boards. Use everything that you have to create that influence. Any questions so far? Okay, no. So coming to the last piece, inclusivity. Inclusivity is a topic that is, I would say, underrated. It has so much potential to transform any piece that we work on. It is there. It should be a sacrosanct item that we should inculcate in all our approaches. If it is about stakeholder engagement, project management, project lead, anyone and everyone should promote inclusiveness. And when it specifically comes for stakeholder engagement, that always will entail the three basic pillars of it. One is you have to encourage diverse perspectives. When you have varied viewpoints and different viewpoints, you will always land on a innovative solution that is all inclusive, that will solve a multifold of problems. And it will also help you create increased satisfaction in your customers and stakeholders. If you're trying to solve a single problem, and you're doing it only by recognizing the perspectives of a single stakeholder or a single group of people, you are not going to be able to holistically transform your solution. So always encourage diverse perspectives when you are working on innovative solutions for via your project. Second is you always should adapt your communication skills for different stakeholder groups. You have to tailor your message so that it suits everyone's preferences. Because if I am talking to, let's say, a pool of young women, my way of talking, my way of delivering the message that I'm trying to will be entirely different than as compared to a group of mature women in the range of 30 to 40-year-old. So you have to always tailor your messaging so that it suits the preferences and needs of your stakeholders. So by enhancing understanding, you have to understand their viewpoint first, then you have to figure out who falls in what category of your segmentation, and then tailor your messaging to suit their preference. And the last piece is you have to build an inclusive work culture in your projects. When there is inclusive environment, then only there will be proper teamwork which will have a good morale. And when you have a good morale, a good team, then only you will be able to attract diverse talent, and if you have good talent, then only there will be project success. So it's all a loop which is never ending, and it has to be connected at all points so that your project delivery and your project success is done in a manner that you visualized. Okay, so that is it. I think we are on time.
I'll take that as a no. Thank you, Meghna. That was quite insightful. I have, personally already started thinking, how am I going to use this information in my upcoming projects as we move forward. And that said, now we present you the certificate with our appreciation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.